So again, good evening to everyone. God bless you. We're on lesson 5, and lesson 5's title is The Womb. On yesterday in our church service, I had the opportunity to basically scratch the surface and open up a lot of things, topic areas really, not to really be able to teach it in depth, but just to talk to the women, because yesterday we celebrated what we call the Women in Red celebration that takes place every December, and where the women all dress in red and all of that good stuff and look all pretty and have a good time after service and all of that. So I wanted to just talk to them about who they are as women and their value place on yesterday. And it was a really, really, really good time, inspiring. What was exciting, as it always is when I'm sharing this information, was the fact that men came to me after the service, and especially young men, and they said that they had to fix their lives. They had to get ready for the woman of their life, and they had not been preparing for the women to come into their life that they wanted to be in their lives. And so as a result of that, that was worth the entire day for me to hear that from them. And it was a group of them that were all lamenting at the same time, Bishop, we got to get it together. We don't have it together based on what you just shared. And so so that they can see and value women as well. So one of the things that is very important, we've already covered and gone through. We've gone through the creative order. We've gone through the creative order of them and looking at the fact that God in the beginning brought them together and was talking to them, not just to him and her, but to them. The one together, the pattern is a them mentality, that they would walk together, they will have dominion together, they will have authority over everything together. We move from there to understand that the man's responsibility in the garden was to worship God, and that the woman was actually created to join him in that purpose. And that primary purpose was to function as a priest and worship God that way. And so we came through that. We also then looked at the fact that she is now created to be a helpmeet for him, and we understood what that helpmeet had to be about, and that is to stand out in front and to announce the very purposes of this man, and to and not only just this man but them, to announce the purposes, to walk together in oneness, and to enter into that worship place with him, and that if he doesn't have that relationship, it is not a place that she should enter into. She should not enter into a place where there is not a man already knowing how to have a relationship with God. She should never enter into that relationship until he's fully functioning in that place. And once he is, now she's safe to enter in to that relationship with him. Before that, I would even go as far as saying that she is not as safe as she thinks she is, because God keeps him in line, and therefore he will love her the way God loves her. The other thing is, we looked at the fact that she's also the end of creation, and that's lesson 4. She is the actual end of the creative order. It is not until the woman comes into play that you now can have what we will be able to talk about to fulfill what God has already said, and that is what? That you now can be fruitful and you can multiply and you can replenish the earth. It is not until she comes that can actually happen, and that happens by way of the fact that how God created her. God did not reach down and grab any more dirt. He didn't grab dirt to create her. He took his side, and that word means his complete side. Matter of fact, the Hebrew word there is his complete side, not just a rib, because we know it's more than a rib, because Adam said it was more than a rib. And Adam says, you are bone of my bone and you are flesh of my flesh. So it was both. It was bone and flesh, okay, that was taken. And from the bone and the flesh that was already created which made her be created from a higher material than the material even he was made from, even though he was made from the dust. But he is from he's a higher grade now. So from him comes her. And then we are clear in this that Adam now identifies her. Remember, Adam named all of the animals. Adam names all of the animals. They are nameless animals until Adam puts names to them. Okay, Adam names all of the animals. And the Bible then tells us that when Adam sees this woman that God brings to him, that represented the first wedding ceremony, okay, and all of creation's mentality, as I talked about yesterday. If you did not see my live stream, it's on my Facebook page. You really do need to look at that message. But all of creation is focused on her the same way all of the wedding ceremony and everybody that's there that came to see her. She is the focus of everyone's attention. And in verse 22, as the Bible would say this, though, watch it says, "And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man," in Genesis 1:22, "made he woman and brought her unto man." And Adam says, "Now this is the bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." Okay, so again, it was more than just the rib; it was all of the side. That word rib is translated side, actually. When you look it up in the Hebrew, he says, "Bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, she shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man." So Adam was walking around, in essence, with her inside, with her as a part of him, yet not even really recognizing that she was there, because there was no two heads on one body. She was within him. She was being carried in him. And so out of him comes him, and Adam says, "She's now bone of my bone, she's flesh of my flesh, she shall be called woman." Now, it is so amazing, again, that Adam named all of the animals, gave all of them their identity and their purpose. Listen to that really good. He gave every animal its identity and its purpose, because that is exactly what names do. Names give you identity and it gives you purpose. And so Adam named all cattle. See, that seems redundant. But he did, and we still do today. If you have an animal in your home, whatever the animal may be, dog, cat, bird, gerbil, whatever, you have given it a name. You not only allow it to function under the name of what it is called today, but you also gave it additional name. He gave names to all the cattle. Well, that's what we do with that, with what we own. What we own, we name. Okay, we have that ability to name what we own, and so that's what he did. And but we clearly know, and you know as women, that there is no way possible that you're going to allow a man to just be calling you woman. You're not going to do that. There is not a man on this planet that you're going to just say, "Hey, let you call, hey, woman." You know, this woman got a name. You know, especially here in the West. It might fly a little bit in the East, but it's not going to fly in the West. So this woman has a name, and you need to use it. Okay. So what was her name? You see, if woman is her identity, what was her name? You see, as a matter of fact, this name woman gives her not only gives her purpose as well. Okay, it is her. She finds purpose through this name, woman. Now we will come back to that in just a moment. Okay, and but in Genesis chapter 5 is when we find her name, and because, listen to me really close at this point, because we have not focused on her name, we have not allowed her to be restored back to the place of her original name. And she needs to be restored. Women in the church especially need to be restored back to their original name. And so in Genesis 5, we find her name. It says, this is the book of the generation of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God created he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them. There's all that them again, right? And called their, which connects to them, their to name singular, not an S on it, Adam, in the day when they were created. And so her name was his name. And that's exactly what you find at marriage ceremony. I now present unto you Mr. and Mrs. And there should be one name that is mentioned. You know, when I was doing this, and when we first started doing this, this was a place that my wife would always cringe, because I would go into it as deep as dealing with the fact that there are no hyphenated names in God, and there are no hyphenated names in marriage. If there's a hyphenated name, then you're not one. There can only be one name. And Jesus is not going to have a hyphenated church. And therefore, since we're modeling his life and his marriage, then how can we have hyphenated names in God? You see, just can't do it. That's a worldly mindset and following a world system, and that we need to stay away from. It's pretty interesting. I don't badger about it. If I hear it, I don't jump down somebody's throat because they tell me that they have a name hyphenated. I don't deal with it that way. I tell them the truth in this sense, and I leave it alone. It's in the True Value book, and I leave it alone. It has to be a place of conviction that would change that. That name, that oneness is very important. And so bringing the woman back to an Adam namesake. Her name is Adam. Her name is not Eve, okay? Her name was Adam. Her name is Eve after the fall. So she has a name that was before the fall, and she has a name that is after the fall, okay? All right? We find the same thing in marriage again. If you get married, you get one name. If you get divorced, you get another name. You go back to another name. You change your name back to what it was, okay? So it's an interesting thing. So, but here, this man who is Adam, the male form of Adam. So Adam is male and female, which we already saw. And we already saw that in Genesis 1. Adam is male and female. Adam is not just male. And so, but when you think of Adam, all you think about is male. You don't think about female. You think, when you say Eve, you think female. You do not think male. You see? Now, when she becomes Eve, now you got two people in the garden. When she was Adam, you only had one person, and that's what Adam said. A man shall leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and the two shall be one flesh. You see? So the oneness had to do with the name. But now she has a purpose beyond his purpose based on being called womb man. So she's a man who has a womb. So and again, the only way that the blessing that's already been spoken over them can take place, be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, that can only happen because of her. Without her, there is no fruitfulness, there is no multiplication, and there is no replenishing. It's just not happening. You have to have her. And so God immediately, we find that God immediately works with this woman in a divine partnership, and places within her that will bring forth life, and the ability to carry life is now placed inside of her, so that when seed meet egg, now life comes forth, and she carries in her womb everything that brings forth the replenishing of the earth. Okay, so it is totally between God and this woman that this thing is happening, and by way of her womb. Okay, by way of her womb, because when this statement is made in Genesis 1:28, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth, there is no way to know how that would happen. When the statement is made, if you're at Genesis 1:28, there is no way you can tell me how this would happen. We have the ability to look back at this and know, but when it is said in Genesis 1:28, there is no way to know how this will take place. We don't find out how that will take place until Genesis chapter 2, when this woman is created. It is at that point that we find out how this creative process will take place, so that there's fruitfulness, multiplication, and replenishing. And so she becomes the end of that, as chapter lesson 4 did. She becomes the end of the creative order. Everything is over at her coming forth. She ends it all, which I believe we took from that, save the best for last. I do believe that. That's one of those statements I believe that came along with her coming along. Okay, just an amazing mindset when you understand it, when you start looking at it. Now, the other thing is that after the fall, the mindset concerning the womb is now more about the man, and even about him having sons. Okay, a man then wanted a son and all of that, and it would seem as though that because of the fall, that which we can't get into yet, and we're not there yet, but because of the fall, the women become property to the man. Remember again in Genesis 1, and he says, to them, and they shall have dominion over the fish of the sea, fowl of the air. They shall subdue, as we read in 1:28. What he never told them was, he never said that they had dominion over each other. He never told them they had the ability to subdue each other. So they didn't have any ability to be over with an authority over each other, because they had an authority who was God that was over them. So they did not have authority over each other. So it's not until the fall that we get any sense of any human being over any other person. That was not the design of God. And then, even then, when we look at the word that's used, it is not the word that we use for radah. It's not the word that's used for kabash, which is subdue. We got another word. It is mashal. And a mashal is a word that deals with the ability to do all of those things, but I believe we get our word marshal from. And that word means it's an elective office. It is a given position. It is not a position taken. Okay, that is, it is, you give me the right now to now marshal or to govern, if you will, over you. I don't take it. I don't crush you. But that's not what the enemy did. As we're nowhere near that, but I'm a little ahead of myself. But I think it's important for you to understand it right now, is that the enemy changed that so that women were kaboshed. Women became subdued unto men so that they could have multiple wives. I think the multiple wife thing came from that. All of this stuff that came down through the centuries, that was allowed even by God in this sense, because I believe that God knows what he's doing, that he's going to restore you back to that place greater than you've ever been in your life. And so now the restoration time has come through Jesus. Now men still keep you in the same place. It's because they never bring you back to Adam. They take you back to Eve. Every religious organization only gets you back to Eve. They never take you back to Adam. Okay? And that's the place where you should, and if you're dealing with any religious organization, you would have to say to them, I'm Adam. And that alone would shake them to make them have to consider, you are. I'm Adam. I am not Eve. I am Adam. I am Adam. You cannot make me Eve when Jesus has restored me back to Adam. You see? And when this whole movement started, one of the things that the Lord said to me was, let my daughters know that they're restored. And he says, I proved that in the upper room experience, that they did not receive the presence of the Spirit from some man. They received it from me. I treated them as one with me. And again, that's just phenomenal stuff. The other thing that again, so when you deal with the fall and you deal with the womb, you seem as though it becomes a thing that is designed for men. It's not. It was designed actually for God. The womb is designed for God so that God had an entry into the earth. That's why it's designed. It was not designed. It was not designed for the playground of a man. Yet he is so grateful for the design. He should be very grateful for the design, and the woman is as well. But at the same time, God designed the womb so that he could come into the earth, and that there was an entryway for him to get into the earth as a man. Okay, that he could come into the earth, and that is, that's what you're celebrating. That's the season you're in. That's the season you're celebrating right now. And so when I'm doing this teaching and I'm talking to men, I say to them that this relationship, this womb that you've learned to try to have conquest over is not designed for you in that sense, and it all get a interesting look on their face. And I say to them also that the relationship that is designed around sex is not designed for you primarily. You benefit from it, but it's not primarily yours. Again, I get a very interesting look from most when I'm in men's conferences because they've been told something different. And I then can point out to them the design of the womb and all of the inner workings of the womb, not talking about the vaginal opening. Because most people, when they're talking about the womb, they're talking about the vaginal opening. They're not talking about the womb, the fullness and the awesomeness of the womb. The womb is tremendous of all that is connected to the womb. Fallopian tubes, the eggs, the ovaries, and we can go on and on. The cervix, all of that, and the vaginal opening is a part of all of that. You see, and so when you start even discussing that with men because they didn't go to biology class that day, you see, and you said, why would God do all of this detailed for you? Just for you to lay with, and that awakens. And I have other ways that I will not go into here tonight to prove this even further in the understanding of that this is designed more for women than it's for men, and it really is designed for the cleaving process. For a man, it's for him to cleave. Remember, the husband is supposed to cleave to the wife. It's supposed to be a part of the cleaving process. It's a part of the chase. It's part of the run behind. It's part of the hold on to process. And so it is a lot to this. But what happened is when Jesus said, "From your womb," in Genesis 3, womb again dealing with the fall again, from your womb will come one that will crush the head of this enemy, and he will bruise his heel. That's just amazing. So at that point, you became the enemy, the enemy of hell, and hell now attacks you as a woman, but your womb in particular, tremendously, continually. Women are under attack, just under attack. They just, it's just amazing. If I could get women to just start talking to other women about the attack of hell against them, I would have been successful. I could actually feel as though I've accomplished something with True Value of a Woman's Movement by the fact that women will start talking to other women about the attack of hell against them, and make women understand you are under attack all the time and why they are under attack. which they will resonate with him because it's known intuitively. Anyway, it is clearly known intuitively. So I'm going to stop there for tonight.